All right, Break the Box, welcome back. I hope that you've been enjoying the last few weeks. I've had some really cool special guests, and y'all are going to get spoiled again today because I have another young adult who is joining me. I think I'm just going to call this my young adult series because it's been really cool. I've had several of my young adults that I get to mentor, preaching some amazing sermons as young adults, and so they are coming on each week to just share some love with you. And so today, I want you to help me welcome Savannah to the podcast. Hey, Sav. Hey, girl. I should say your last name. Is it Olmedo? Olmedo. Say it
Yeah,
right.
Olmedo. Olmedo.
Olmedo. Sorry, I don't want to
Yeah.
be that white girl.
No, it's
Olmedo.
okay. Nobody ever says it right. They always say like Olmeda with the A.
Olmedo, but it's Olmedo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, as my dad calls you, Savannah.
Savannah.
If you've ever met
Yes.
my dad, he has this like weird accent. Anytime he sees Savannah, he'll just be like, Savannah. And I'm like, what is that? But you love it. So you always say, like, don't correct
Yeah.
him, please.
Yeah.
But I love it. But I'm so happy to have you here, babe. Like, honestly, you and I get to do a lot of life together. I've known you, gosh, since I think we were talking about it the other day. I've probably known you since you were like low elementary grade school-ish. Like
I
your
think
family
like
came to
first or
church.
second
First or
grade.
second grade, yeah. Your
Yeah.
family came to church and brought you, and you were just this like little itty bitty, like almost looked like Pocahontas with the braid, or just like super cute. And you always had like such a sweet little demeanor. But it's been really cool to watch you grow into the woman that you are today. And I think the thing that I've always loved about you is you've always been really cute. Like you always had good hair and like style, even though you didn't really do makeup till you got older. Like you were definitely just more chill. You were always cute and put together and like had a good outfit. Like, I don't know. When you're a style girl, like I vibe with other girls who are like that. So I was always like, Sav, that's what's up, girl. Um, but all that to say, I'm so blessed that you would come on today. So first of all, tell everybody, how old are you?
So I'm 19
Sorry, I'm putting your
currently.
business out there on the
It's
pod.
okay. No, it's okay.
19, but it's a good thing, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you're 19, you have just gotten this opportunity this last Wednesday to preach your first sermon. Absolutely knocked it out of the park. I was so proud of you. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about what that was, because I think bringing this to the podcast gives other people who aren't at our church the ability to like hear the message of God and see what he's doing in your generation. And so you preach this message about, I am not too broken to be used by God, which I think was just, man, it like hit so heavy, right? But will you talk a little bit about like what that meant to you personally? Like, what are some of those maybe one or two key moments, like something that you went through in your life that made you go, hey, I do feel broken, but God still wants to use me?
Yeah. I think like cuz these were topics that were like given to us,
Yeah.
but I think like when I first got that topic, it was like when I read the little like under description of like what it was, I was like, this is my like topic. Like
This is
that
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that hits
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And like as I was like preparing for it, I think like one of the moments that I had shared like in like while I was preaching was how I struggled really bad like for I want to say like a long time, like since I was a really young age, with like anxiety, depression, and I spoke about like having this, I can never say it, but like when you dissociate disorder.
Disassociation.
Yes,
That
that.
one. Yeah.
Yes, and so
Which is
I
what, like, where you
basically
like disconnect from things because you like don't feel like you can process them?
it's basically when you go through like traumatic things and stuff like that, where it gets to a point where people have like fight or flight. So
Right.
instead I was just like this bottle where it just got too much, so would have episodes where I was just like completely numb. I didn't
Yeah.
care about anything. I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, like it's another day, it's another thing.
Yeah.
And it's like it's dangerous, I would say,
Yeah.
because you can do really dumb like things,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
hard to like snap back,
Sure.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was like probably like the first thing that came to mind as I was like prepping, because I remember during like that season where I was even like, I didn't know what it was at first. Like I just knew
Yeah.
it was this thing that I would always
Yeah.
have to like get out of. And then when I started like therapy, because I'm a big therapy person.
Let's
I'm
go,
about
girl. Me
therapy,
too.
yes.
Yeah.
And I remember how she explained it to me. It was like, this is what you have, like,
Yeah.
because X, Y, and Z. But she, like, really helped me, like, learn how to get through that. But
Mm-hmm.
before that, it was kind of like when I was asked to be, like, on the worship team,
Yeah.
where I didn't have, like, the coping skills yet or anything.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, that I was like struggling, and I was saying like, God, like I go through these episodes where I don't
Yeah.
feel nothing, I don't feel like love for him, and
Yeah.
like I like didn't, sometimes I was questioning like, is this real? Like
Yeah.
I don't know, like, and I think that's like a very real thing too. I
Totally.
think I was putting so much pressure on myself,
Yeah.
when in reality, like I think a lot of teenagers or like young
Yes.
adults, they all go through that, because like you're so
100%.
young. I was in church like so young, so it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
all I knew.
Yeah.
So then I think when I got to like that age where I was like, is this really like what I know, or is it just what
Mm-hmm.
I'm being shown? And
Yeah.
it was like a very like real moment, and that was like one of the most things that I was like, wow, like I feel like I'm not worthy like of this title, or
Yeah.
like to be doing like this and like things like that, like to be on stage in front of everyone where they're
Sure.
like watching me and
Watching you
like,
the whole time.
yeah, mm-hmm,
Absolutely. So like because I remember having that conversation with you, like I remember coming to you like, hey, I want you to be on the
mm-hmm,
worship team. And you were like, maybe, but you could tell on your face, you were like, maybe not.
no,
Like you love me. So you
yeah,
were like trying to be nice. Like all I could think
mm-hmm,
about it. But I could tell you had all these thoughts like going through your head, right? And I love that you
mm-hmm,
even voiced that. Like sometimes even as you're growing, like there'll be these opportunities and you almost
mm-hmm,
go, can I really do this? Do I really want to do this? Like, am I
mm-hmm,
doing what I've always just done my whole life, or am I doing what I really believe? I think most, and I've said this before, but like, so like statistically, right? Like most 18 to 25-year-olds completely fall off and stop serving the Lord. Like it's like a
mm-hmm,
huge, I forget what it is, it's like over 80%, right?
yeah,
I think that the reason why is because what you just said, they've like either been raised their whole life in church, so that's all they've known, or
mm-hmm,
B, they've never really tapped into that. So there's just a season of like, I'm going to be grown and do what I want to do now.
yeah,
And so there's this pocket where you have to choose. It's no longer because you're being forced to, it's no
mm-hmm,
longer because someone's making you. You have to
yeah,
decide now, like, do I really choose Jesus for myself? And so I actually love that you had that real moment, because I feel
mm-hmm,
like you wouldn't have even what you're coming into now if you didn't really sit down and go, is this because this is what my family has taught me, or is this because of what
mm-hmm,
I'm really choosing, right?
yeah,
But that's hard when you've like all of us have, but like you've lived through some difficulties, you've lived through
yeah,
struggles, and then your body
mm-hmm,
is like, I don't even know how to process this right now, I have no idea what
mm-hmm,
I'm even doing. And I think people can relate to that, of just almost, there's so much going on, your body just kind of checks out and you just feel numb, like you don't really care what anyone else is doing, you don't really have a passion
mm-hmm,
about anything, you just kind of want to like get through the day. And
mm-hmm,
those are also very real moments to go, okay, Lord, I know you're going to see me through that, but like what pushed you to go, okay, God, I'm still going to try? Like what pushed you to go, okay, maybe I will join the worship team, or maybe God, I will try, if you were feeling all those feelings?
right. So I actually remember, so before like worship team, I still do, I serve like in the sound team,
Yeah.
and so it's like the stuff in the back that like nobody really is
Nobody
paying
sees
attention
you,
to.
but you're in the
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember like I started doing that super like
hmm
young. I think I was like in 8th grade or something.
hmm
Like I was pretty young, and I remember like just doing that alone. I felt like, oh, like I was, in 8th grade, like yeah, like I'm on
I'm on the
something. I'm
sound
doing
team. I'm in the
something.
back touching the
Yes,
laptops.
yeah, I'm pressing forward. Like yeah, I love that.
Oh,
But
like on the song lyrics, like for the
yes,
worship team.
yes,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
yes. And I remember like I had like this like moment where I'm not
hmm
sure, I want to say I was like 17,
hmm
where it was kind of, I was getting to that point where it was kind of like I wasn't being forced to go to church anymore. It was like more of a choice, like how you were saying. And I remember during like that time period, I was having like a little like disassociation like moment.
Yeah.
And I remember that I was like in this phase. And if you guys know me, for, like, wait, because I was always placed in this box. And I think like me and you have
hmm
talked about that before, where everybody
hmm
always thought I was like the good sibling. I was like this
Yeah.
innocent girl, and like I didn't do nothing
hmm
wrong. And it
Yeah.
was hard because like I was placed in that box for a really long time.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I still am, which is funny because now we're on Break the Box, so it's like funny.
You're like,
But
listen, I'm breaking the box
yeah,
today.
yeah. But I remember like I went through like when I first started like really like going through these like numb periods where I just
Yeah.
didn't care. I
Yeah.
was like going out a lot and doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing. And I remember there was this one night where I remember even my mom, she never really was the type to say no. She was kind of always like, yes, go learn on your own if you mess up. Um And I remember this one time she was like, I don't really think I want you to go out today. Like, something just doesn't feel right. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, like, I was really like, and this was probably one of my worst, like, episodes where I just
Mm-hmm.
felt like I didn't care. Like, I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I remember that I still went out that night, and it was probably the worst night of my life. I literally, like, I was kind of left alone, and I remember that I blacked out. I was just embarrassing myself. It was just so bad. Like,
Yeah.
I hurt other people by doing the things that I did that day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like people that I love like so much. And I remember coming home after that and the next day just feeling like horrible. And I just remember like I was around other people, so I still couldn't cope with what just happened or what I just did. And so I was still kind of like bottled. And then I remember the next day, it was a Sunday, and I didn't go to church a little bit after this a little bit. Yeah. And I just remember like I had this time alone, and I just like for the first time, because when you're in these episodes, like you don't really feel like emotions, you don't feel sad, you don't feel mad. And I remember like it just hit me and it just broke, and I was just on the floor like sobbing, and I was just like crying out to God and saying like why would I do this? Like this is not who I am. Like this is not, because at the time it felt like it was fun, like to do things like that. It was like fun for me, which I think it is for probably
most people
anyone. Yeah. And so I just remember like I was just crying on the floor and just like pouring my heart out, like this doesn't feel like who I am. And I remember my brother walking in the room, and I didn't even know that anybody was home. I thought I was by myself. I remember he walks in the room, and he has like a rocky like yes God no God type thing. And I remember he just grabbed me and just held me. We're not really touchy like that. And he just grabbed me so hard and just like sat with me as I just like cried. And I didn't even tell him what I did or what happened. I was just like sobbing, just telling him like this is not, like, I don't know who I am. After he left, he actually sent me like a verse like from the Bible and told me like I love you, like, and it was about like forgiveness and like and I just felt like it was crazy because I didn't tell him anything. He didn't know if I was like sad over like a boy or a friend or anything. He did not know. And I felt like in that moment I just felt like, how could I forgive myself? Like God's not gonna forgive me. Like and I just remember like after that, like I didn't really go to church a little bit, and I think like I was kind of like confused, and I just didn't know. Like I didn't feel like, I felt like I was drowning. Like that was the word. Like I just felt like drowning. But I remember like people like reaching out to me and saying like, hey, you know, like we haven't seen you. And I went through like a moment where I just had to like be with God like one-on-one and have like that intimacy, because it was just like like in that time I was just doing like the sound team like in the back, and I felt so like convicted, like just being back there. Nobody's even turning around.
Nobody's even seeing like,
you. So I just felt like, how am I gonna be back here pressing this button? And I just like felt like I just I was like wilding out. Like I was not like, I didn't feel like who I was. So like I got healed like from that time, but it was just like a point of like humiliation. Like I feel like I humiliated myself. I hurt other people. I feel like I hurt myself during this time. And I just like remember when I was asked to like be on the worship team, it was something that like when I was younger, I would say like, oh, I want to sing one day. And I remember like saying like, if you were forgiven for like this wilding out like period, and like and you were just in the back, like now like I felt like he was calling me to be like, look, like I can bring you out of certain things, and you're gonna be like in the front, because eventually like you're gonna use your testimony. Because what I went through was like, I don't know if it was like, it wasn't coping, but it was kind of like something that to me, I felt like my world was ending. And if I were to say this to somebody my age, they would be like, girl, I've done worse than that, and I've done like but it was just like, to me it just felt like it wasn't me, like just the fact that I feel like I did things that weren't me, and I just felt like I needed something to fulfill that. And so I just think like when I was asked to be on the worship team, that kind of reminded me, like I was brought back to that moment where I was crying on the floor, and I was just like reminded like, you can be like what I'm calling you to be. Like this is where I want you, even if it's just like temporary, or like I felt like, God, I'm not Whitney Houston or anything, like I'm just gonna be like there. But it was just like something like that. I just felt like well, he reminded me like of that
Mm-hmm.
moment where I was so like vulnerable and I felt like I couldn't even be in the back. But
Yeah.
now it's like now you've got out of that, and now I want you to be like in the front. I want you to be like kind of like a role model
Yeah.
in a way, because I think like when
Yeah.
you told me that we needed like the realness and like the truth, like honesty and
Yep.
stuff like that. I think
Yeah.
that was really like him saying like I told you so in a way.
Like, listen, I need you to pay attention to this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I love this story so much, Savannah, because I feel like a lot of, I think, young adults go through these seasons where, let's be honest,
Mm-hmm.
you're exploring, like, that you're not a bad kid. You're figuring out life, you know? Like, I know sometimes as an adult, we want you guys to, like, hit the straight path and just kill it, you know? But if we're honest, most of us young adults had those moments too where we had to search and find and figure it out, right? And so I love that you had this moment where, like, you went to this thing, you, like, made some poor decisions, you come home, but what was so crazy is you didn't just be like, well, I'm gonna just do me. Like, you almost had this moment where you like felt the heaviness of your choices. Like, you could kind of feel your sin, like, oh man, this is probably not what I should be doing. And you had
Mm-hmm.
this moment where you just fall on your knees and you just take this time, and then the most random person that you would expect to come in that moment, your brother, comes in and like shows you love and then sends you this scripture about like God's forgiveness. To me, I feel like that's such a depiction though of who God is, because he's not gonna look at you and high five maybe the bad behavior, but he also doesn't look at
Mm-hmm.
you and not see the good. He still sees you past all this stuff, right? And so I think even you said it so beautifully, like coming on the worship team, like, yes, you know this, we have guidelines, we even like go over
Mm-hmm.
things like, hey, we need to honor God, like we can't be up here like on Sundays and then like living it all crazy on the weekends. But I also told you, we're not looking for perfect people because none of us are. We all have
Right.
struggles, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
actually think it's really cool that you, as a 19-year-old, learned God still loves you when you're working it
Mm-hmm.
out. God still loves you when like you made a poor decision and you like went and did something you shouldn't at a party. Like, he still sees you. He's not like sitting in heaven with like a list, like, oh, that
Mm-hmm.
one's off. She's not doing this. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, his heart is still drawn toward you. So you go through this season, you decide to still be on the worship team. Now you're in a place where like you're growing in your relationship with the Lord. Like, what would you say if you could like look back to yourself even a year ago, to that moment when you were on the carpet and you felt like, I'm this horrible person and God's not going to love me? Like, what would you go back and tell yourself today to even encourage yourself to keep pushing as you've realized it was worth it?
Yeah. I think like the biggest thing for me is if I like could go back, I
Mm-hmm.
think past me was so scared about like breaking this box and like
Yeah.
being on this pedestal that everyone was placing me in.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just probably tell myself like everybody here, like your family, your friends,
Yep.
like people that know you, they're the ones placing you in this box.
Yeah.
But I think it's just important to just remind like to
Yeah.
have told myself like
Yeah.
God is not, he doesn't place us in these boxes. He's not looking at me like, oh, you did that, okay, well that's it, like you're over, you got
You're
one
not this
chance.
perfect kid, right?
Yeah, like he, like there's like a reason that he sent like
Yep.
Jesus like die for our sins, because
Come
we're
on.
robots. Like, we're not robots, sorry, we're not
Right.
robots.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
he gave us like choices, because I
Come
think
on.
I said this in my message, like when you go through something like that, like it's hurting you or that it
Yeah.
really like tugs on you, it makes
Yeah.
you vulnerable, because
Yeah.
God at the end wants us to rely on him.
Come on.
And so I think I would just remind myself like this is a moment where it's an
Yep.
opportunity. Don't look at it as like I messed up, more look at it as like a lesson to just not
Come
put
on.
myself in that box. Like if I hated the
Mm-hmm.
box so much, don't do that to
Don't
myself,
put yourself in it.
because yeah, what matters is that like God didn't put me like in that box, and like he
Yep.
is gonna forgive me. And if I like, it doesn't mean I have to be perfect, because like after that, like yes, I still like made mistakes after that, but it was
Yeah.
kind of like, don't let that like define like who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and like don't let it like,
Yep.
don't let it like ruin the image, because like God is not putting me in that box, and he's just sees me for me, not for like the sin that I did.
Come on. Well, I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
Christians live that way. Like, if you're perfect enough and you're good enough and you do the part, God's going to love you and
Mm-hmm.
use you. That couldn't be a bigger lie. Like, we say this all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
like, look at the people who God chose, Jesus chose as his disciples. Like,
Yeah.
they were like crazy boys, you know, who was like living
Yeah.
their best lives. And he was like, you come follow me, you know, like, I think I think that your generation, but even my generation, needs to be reminded of that. like, we don't belong in a box, and neither do you guys. And God's not putting us there. I don't have to be perfect to be used by God. But sometimes, too, I think when you go through those moments, that's why we need conviction of the Holy Spirit, which just basically means like when we do something wrong, we feel it. Like, you could feel those things, and that's what pushes you to go, "God, I don't want to do that. That's not what I want." But it's not shame, it's not condemnation, it's not making you feel like you're unworthy. It's saying, I love you enough that I want you to know that this is not the road you want to go into, but like, I'm still pursuing you, Savannah. I still love you. Like, that's the God that we serve, right? And so I know that that was painful. I'm sure that that season was difficult, but I'm so glad that you experienced what it was like to even walk through that valley and still feel God pursuing you and loving you and meeting you there. Because I think you wouldn't be today who you are if like you had just done everything so perfectly, right? Like, I think sometimes those moments actually teach us who we are in the Lord, and they remind us that, you know, even when we do fall short of the glory of God, he's not like, well, you're done, we tried, but one and done, you know, like there's always grace and there's always mercy. And so I remember even like, I don't think I've ever even told you this, but we tell all the secrets on the pod. It's what we do. We just love for everyone to hear stuff. We're like, if you want to hear the secrets. I remember having this conversation with my dad because there were years that we didn't have anybody that was younger on worship teams. Like, everybody was like 30 and above, you know, and there was always this like we need to know that we're serving the Lord and we have to honor his presence, and like, you know, we need to have reverence. And I believe totally in all of those things. But I remember this season where I feel like the Lord said, like, Kalina, I want this younger generation to know me and see me and feel me, and they need to be represented in like your church, in the people who are leading things and the people who are on your stage. And so I remember going to my dad and I was like, low key, like, we need some people under 30 on the team. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, honestly, like, I think we need some high school kids and we need some young adult kids, and we need to like start bringing in this generation, not waiting till they're like have it all together. Like, we don't have it together either. I was like, I think they need to like come to pull and even feel the Lord in that process by being used. And my dad's like so pro next generation, but I remember at first he was like, but what if they're like really in a struggle bus, or like, you know, my dad, he's so sweet. He's like, you know, what if they're just not ready? And I was like, they're probably not. I remember being so honest. I was like, they're probably not. And I'm gonna be honest, half of them are probably still figuring out their sin. They're probably gonna have a good Sunday and not good Sunday. I was like dead serious with my dad. I was like, look, honestly, like, think of yourself at that age. Like, that's probably where they're at, even if, you know, in a hole they're boat. And I remember he kind of like looked at me and he just said, you know, I'll be honest, I've never really seen that modeled, but I think that you're right. I think that we need to show them they don't have to be perfect to be seen and used by God. And I think that the church needs to do that. And so I remember like I think you and Adi were like some of the first ones that came on the team. It was like a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. And then little did I know, as you guys came on, now we're getting like more 16-year-old. I think we just got a 14-year-old recently. Like, we're getting like the younger generation, like, I want to do that. I want to be used by God, right? And I literally, it was like, I think it was 2 weeks ago, my dad pulled me aside and he was so sweet. He goes, thank you. And I go, for what? And he was like, thank you for the day that you told me we needed younger people on our team and that I needed to trust you. He was like, it wasn't that I didn't want it. I just, you know, he was kind of raised in that, like, you have to really be ready and you know, and he goes, I'm realizing that God's even doing something new and I needed to just embrace that. He's like, because I can't imagine not having these younger ones on the team. He's like, it's brought all of us to life. And like, it was just this cool moment of him being like, thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. I was like, you know, but it was cool because it was proof of what you're preaching, right? Like, I'm sorry, but even us adults who like claim to have it together don't have it together all the time, you know? And so I think it just was like a keep it real moment. So I think for you, there's a lot of young adults who feel that feeling like one day when I'm good enough, God's going to see me, right? But you're basically saying, no, he sees you now. Like, and it doesn't mean that, like, you know this, I never like high five you like, yeah, let's just go keep sinning. But I'm also honest, like, let's talk about your struggles. Let's talk about what's your temptations. Let's talk about when you're having a rough week, and let's encourage one another and champion one another. I'm not going to out you to everybody. You would do the same for me, right? But we also are constantly like encouraging each other to go closer to the Lord. I think that actually helps people grow. And at the end of the day, God is not looking for perfect little people in boxes. He's looking for people with just a willing heart. And so I've loved watching you grow. Like, you a year ago to even who you are on the worship team now is like a night and day. Like, I remember you in the beginning, you were like so scared and held your microphone so still. And like, now you're just like killing it. And you remember that, huh? Like that first Sunday. Yes. And your mom and everybody else has like their camera out, like recording the whole time. That's always the hardest part. Everyone's like so proud, but you're like, oh my God, just let me have my moment with Jesus. But you've come into this, you've preached now, and I mean, I know for you, like you were so nervous that day that you got up, but you got up and you like shared this incredible message of like, hey, God sees you. And I also love your vulnerability, but what would you say to like a young person who says like, I want to try, but I'm scared, or I want to try, but I feel stuck. Like, I don't even know how to get out of the stuff that I'm in, but I do want a relationship with Jesus. Like, it doesn't have to be over spiritual, but just like, what would be your honest advice? Like, if I came to you as a friend and went, Savannah, I love that you're being used by God. I love that He's using you. I know I don't have to be perfect, but like, I don't even know like what to do or how to make that real for my life. What would you say? What would be your advice, girl?
That one is like, I feel like that is such like a real question,
Mm-hmm.
especially now, because I think like it's really hard for like our generation like right now to even try to, because I think everything is so like normalized, like
Mm-hmm.
everything, or it's either so normalized or there's so much like sensitivity and people are like they're
Yeah.
shy, or they feel like even like on TikTok they call it like Christian talk or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you'll even see like girls that are like throwing out their crop tops and they're like, yes, like I'm gonna do this for God, and they're younger, and then
Oh,
people in the comments are telling them like, you don't have to do that. Like I hate this new Christian generation. Like you can be whoever you want to be. But I think it's just like if you are like doing something, because we're young, we're gonna make like mistakes,
sure.
and it's temptation is like always gonna be there, and it's
Yeah.
harder when you're like younger because you're figuring out like who you are.
Sure.
But it's like if you have that temptation and you do something and you feel like that conviction,
Mm-hmm.
don't, I would say like don't let that like pull you away. Instead, like
Mm-hmm.
let that like draw you closer, because
Ooh.
you're gonna get to like a point where it's like you're gonna keep like the sins, and you're gonna keep sinning and keep sinning. But it's like when you're younger, I feel like, and you're trying to figure out who you are, it's hard when you have all these people like in your ear and you feel like I'm not good enough or whatever. But I think like it's important that we do like our own research and stop
Mm-hmm.
listening to the other people, because literally in the Bible it says like he used someone that was cheating, he used someone that was scamming people, he
Mm-hmm.
used girls that like didn't respect their bodies. So it's like if you look at those people and you look at who
Yep.
you are, it's kind of like don't feel like you're any less than,
So good.
because it's like God isn't, he's not like seeing or he's not like judging. So I think like when people are like, oh, like I feel like I can't, like I just, it's like I feel like I can't do what I'm being asked to do, or it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's the enemy at the end of the day, like at
Um,
knocking at the door.
yep.
Because like nobody's gonna want, like being so young, it's like even in the schools I remember like people would be like, oh, like why is she acting like that, or oh, look at that girl over there, like why, like is she praying, or it's weird, I went to the mall and this guy wouldn't stop talking about God. And it's like, dude,
Yeah.
like it's not that serious. Like
Yeah. It could be
it's
normal. It
so,
doesn't have to be like
yeah,
over spiritual all the time
yeah,
either.
like you
Yeah.
don't have to be over spiritual. And it's also important to also have like community, I think,
Mm-hmm.
especially like
Come on.
younger. Like I did grow up in church, but I did not start having like church friends until I would say now. And it
Wow.
helps so much.
It
Like
does.
when I hear like Alyssa, Jacob, Taylor, and
Mm-hmm.
Joaquin, like when they're talking about their struggles, it helps so much to be like, we're in the same bus, but we could all
Mm-hmm.
still like be used. And like it's good to have that community so you can relate to someone as well. I remember even after preaching, like someone had came up to me and was like, I want to get baptized, but I always thought I wasn't ready yet. But you inspired me, because I think like just because of my past, it doesn't define who I am, so I'm gonna do it.
Come on.
So it's like if you have those friends that are also like telling you, and you're looking in the Bible for yourself to see like proof of who God is
Yeah.
and what he'll do, you'll feel so much better, and you'll be
Absolutely.
like extra encouraged, and you'll be eager actually to like want to do the things that you're being called to do.
Heck yeah, I love that. And I think too, I mean, definitely community, right? Like you need people
Yeah.
around you who are going to champion you. You won't make it if you don't have community. That's like a core value, right?
Yeah.
But I also love that there's just that reminder to like press into the conviction. Because I feel like when you do something wrong, the enemy try to makes you feel like I need to be so ashamed for this that I run away from God. But the best thing to do is actually run into him and go,
Yeah.
this is my struggle. Hey, this is my temptation. Hey, this is hard to say no to, right? Those
Yeah.
are those moments I think you actually deepen your relationship with Jesus because you come to him real. And sometimes we just don't teach that well. We teach people like just say no to sin and rebuke the devil,
Yeah.
But let's be honest. I mean, let's be honest. If we had like those little signs that like say, like, they're like little digital reader signs where like they can put words like in front of a store. Can you imagine if everybody had a digital reader and like every sin that you committed went across the reader? You know how many adults who are like super judgy and want to point other people out would be so embarrassed when people saw their like inappropriate thoughts or they're cheating or whatever, I think we need to all get off pedestals and go, we all fall short of the glory of God. Like, none of us have it all together. Yeah, maybe as I've, like, for me, maybe I'm older and I've had more time with the Lord, so maybe I'm like a little farther along in my journey, or like I get on board quicker on things. Like, that conviction hits me, I'm like, okay, maybe it takes you like a couple minutes more, but we're all still human and we also make mistakes. I think when people can catch that, they will stop thinking, I have to be perfect to come to the Lord. Like, you can come to church in your brokenness and your pain and your ugliness and your sin, and he's going to just swoop you up and love you. And as you get to know him, your life will begin to change and become more like him. But it's a process. And so I actually appreciate you keeping it real, because I think more people your age need to hear that, and also know that God's not only just going to love them, but he does want to use them to be able to be a beacon of hope. You didn't think a year ago, having that moment on the floor, that there would now be younger people going, I want to get baptized, I want to be a worship leader like you. Like, you probably never saw that, but God saw that in you. Even when you were at that party, girl, he was like, that's my kid, and wait till you see her next year preaching to the church. You know what I mean? Like, he literally looked ahead and knew that. He wasn't worried about your stuff, he was just worried about your heart. And so to me, I feel like that came through so much, even in the message that you gave that Wednesday about it, because that's just something people need to hear, right? And so I so love that. And I think you tapped into this, and I'd love just for a minute to hit it. It's like social media plays a lot into this, because we see so much of the world and like how people are trying to be them and be authentic. And I think that sometimes we get over spiritual and it just gets weird. And so, like, for you, like, let's just say, like, even the way you're represented online, is it hard to represent Christ in like social media? Like, is it hard because the way that you've seen it is kind of over spiritual sometimes?
I think it's hard because, like, now, like, there's this thing, like, cancel culture is a thing.
Yeah.
And, like, what I've seen is that, like, people, like, they do something and they get, like, canceled.
Right.
And then what I see is that, like, after that, they disappear for a while. And then once they, like, are back, like, on social media, it's, like, all about God. And they're, like, saying the things of God. But in the comments, people are like, oh, every time somebody gets canceled, like, it's always like, oh, they run to God, and it's always the Jesus people, or, oh, it's like this cult. But I just think, like, at first I kind of thought, like, the same thing. I was kind of like, yeah, like, they're right. Like, every time somebody gets canceled, they come back and they're like, oh, like, God. But I think, like, instead of judging them, I think it's like, we should see the pattern. Like, why is it that when somebody does something bad, all of a sudden they come and it's like, God, 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 God. Like, why is that? Like, obviously, like, we shouldn't judge them and be like, oh, like, they did this, like, they're canceled forever, and now they're all about God, because God is like forgiveness, and he's like that love. And I think, like, when we're on social media, it's so judgy, like, so judgy.
Very. People are mean. People are like straight up mean in the comments.
Yes, everyone's copying each other. It's all about the trends, and, oh, you're off trend, or, oh, that was so last year.
That was so last year.
Yes, like, and it's just so, like, people are very, like, judgy. But I think, like, well, I guess, like, what stops me is, like, sometimes I still feel, like, a little bit, like, unworthy. Like, we still all have, like, the temptations, and I think that's another thing that needs to be broken. Like, just because you become, like, a Christian and you're following God does not mean your life becomes perfect. If
Girl,
anything,
say
like,
it.
Yes, if anything, it's probably knocking at your door 10 times harder.
100%.
They don't want you to be that way. And I just think, like, it's hard because, like, for me, I would say one of the biggest struggles for me that's, like, worldly would be, like, music. I'm a big music person. And sometimes I'm listening to a song and I'm like, do I like this rap version, or do I like this gospel version? Like, it's really hard.
You're like, why is it low-key ratchet, but I kind of like the beat? Like, it's hard.
Yes. And it's hard, like, to be, like, your authentic self in front of, like, this platform that is so like judgy, and they just think, like, that God is, like, not, like, it's kind of, like, weird. So I just think, like, that would probably be like my struggle, I think, like, with the whole, like, social media thing, because it's like, it's real, and people, like, the better you do, the more, like, they're gonna come, like, at
they're
you,
looking for you to fall,
like, like, they're just waiting for that moment for you to get, like, canceled, or for you to, like, mess up and do something.
But I think that's honest. I think that, you know, we do have temptation just because, like you said, it like sometimes when you are serving the Lord, it does get harder because the
Mm-hmm.
enemy's like, no, I'm going to get you back over on this side. And so there's like even
Yeah.
harder things that come at you. I think even you or somebody said that even just recently in one of our small groups, like you feel like you do something for God and then rah, here comes like all these attacks and
Mm-hmm.
these temptations. But you have to realize like temptations don't go away just because you serve Jesus. Like
Yes.
temptations don't just disappear because you go to church. You just learn how to like face them and go, okay, like maybe last month I gave in 100 times, but maybe this month it was only 35. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
you begin to like move forward in it. And so I think that's such a great, just honest voice of truth for your generation is going,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be tempted and you're going to mess up sometimes, but don't let that keep you down. Every day keep getting better, like just keep getting up and going, okay Lord, like I even said this to someone recently, like they were saying like, Lena, I just feel stuck in the same thing and I cannot get out of this. And I just said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, then every day you're just gonna have to be real with God, like, hey, today I know this is gonna be a struggle, so God, I really need you to help me because I don't want to be in that boat. And just every day just keep trying. And you know what, maybe normally you gave in every day that week, maybe 2 days out of the week you didn't
Yeah.
give in. Hey, we're farther than we were last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going, but those other 5 days I was horrible, right? Like I think people forget it takes time. Like the Bible actually says, like you have to work out your faith, which means like it has to grow, you have to build. Like we don't just become who we're supposed to be today. It takes some time, but I think that
Mm-hmm.
your generation needs to have that real approach to go, I'm still gonna have temptations, I'm still gonna have days that I fall short, God's still gonna love me, and when I keep getting up and putting myself foot forward, I'm gonna be able to do this. And you know what, maybe we just need to keep it real on social media, like, hey, this is where I'm at, or this is where my
Yeah.
struggle is, or I'm not perfect
Mm-hmm.
either, but I'm still striving. Like those are things that we grow in time. But I'm really proud of your generation because I can see more people going, let's just keep it real, let's stop being
Yeah.
fake, let's stop canceling
Mm-hmm.
people, let's stop putting people on a pedestal, like let's break some boxes and just go, I'm not perfect but I love Jesus and I'm working
Mm-hmm.
on it. I think
Yeah.
that is what's going to win your generation to the Lord, is just real raw faith. Like I think you will be able to sit down with girls and go, hey, this is where I'm walking through, or this is what I'm still facing, and them go, oh my God, me too. And it's going to help you
Yeah.
relate in a way and go, hey, this is even things I tell people. This is what helped me get out of this. This is what helped me through this. This is what helped me get past these temptations. But sometimes we have to experience some things and
Mm-hmm.
walk through them. And so I'm just proud of you, girl. I'm proud of your journey. You've come so far in the last few years. But I think even over this last year, like watching you preach, I was just so proud. I sat on my chair with like little like tears. I was trying not to cry because you guys all make me emotional. I'm like, those are my little bonus kids. I love them. But I'm so proud of you for pushing forward even when it wasn't easy, even when you're having all the anxiety and all the stresses. Like God saw you and went, I want you. And I think he's saying that to so many listeners, like God sees you and he wants you. It's not just about me or Savannah. This is a thing where God is saying he sees you and he loves you. And I hope that today, if you take something from this, you realize that we're broken people too. All of us have something, but God still sees you. And if you just pursue it authentically, like he's going to continue to love on you. And so thanks so much for coming on, Sav. Thanks for dropping some truth nuggets on the pod. I so appreciate
Clock
it.
it.
My little clock. I love it. Well, break the box. I hope today you got some encouragement. I hope today that you got a little bit of word from a 19-year-old who is killing it for Jesus, but also is just real and honest. And I pray that if you don't have some good community, that you will plug in and find some, because I believe this. We are better together and we're all getting one step closer. Have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll talk to you next time.